Hi, I'm Caitlin, and this is Book Chats, and this is my January 2021 TBR, or all of the books that I am going to try to read in January, the first month of 2021. So when I was deciding how many books I would choose, there were a couple factors that I was thinking about. One were my goals for the year, which I'll have a whole video about those specifically coming out later in January, but I'll mention some vague goals during this video. One was that I always overestimate how many books I can read in a month because I'm just so excited to read everything and I can't read it all at the same time. And one is that I looked at several previous years and how much I read in January, and the range is between like 17 books in 1 month and like 5 books in 1 month in the month of January. So last January I looked and I read 10 books, so I thought keeping about 10 books on this list should be safe. It's kind of halfway-ish between that 5 and 17, and so I'm going to show you the books that I have here, and then I have 2 books that are still arriving in the mail that will be on this list as well, and I think I'm actually showing you 11. Well, I'm showing you 10, and then I have 2 books that are still coming, but I'll kind of tell you why it kind of works, okay? The first book I'm going to show you, though, is a book that I'm technically reading right now, and I was going to try to finish it before the end of the year so that I could start with like a fresh slate, but let's be real, it never happens. I'm always reading that last book and then have to finish it on January 1st, and so that is None Shall Sleep by Ellie Marney. I read Ellie Marney's Every series, which is a vague sort of Sherlockian YA trilogy, and really loved it and loved the characters, and so I thought I would pick this up after I saw it recommended by Kirsty from Melb's on My Mind. Or I think now it's Melb's Books is her new Instagram, so I'll put a link in the doobly-doo. But I am excited to pick this up, but kind of concerned because it is like a YA thriller, and in the past, firstly, I rarely read any thrillers at all, even adult thrillers, and I have not had a lot of success with YA thrillers, but I really like kind of the character she writes. It's interesting because this author does live in Australia, but this book is actually set in 1982 in the United States. Don't know if I like 1982 serial killers enough to enjoy it, so I'll let you know when I finish that. But I am expecting to finish this right away in January, even though I probably will not finish it today. If I somehow magically finish it today, I'll cut this out when I'm editing. So the next book I'm going to show you is for the nonfiction book club that Sweeney and Deboki run over on their channels. I will link to both of their channels below. But I just picked this up from the library today, so I did not start it in December, but the discussion should be on the second Saturday of the month. So I need to start this because I'll have basically 1 week to read it since the first Saturday of the month is in 2 days. And that is The View from Somewhere, Undoing the Myth of Journalistic Objectivity. This is not super, super long, so I'm pretty excited. I think I can get through it. It is nonfiction, which can be longer or can be shorter than fiction. I don't know. It's just very uneven. But I'm excited to read at least part of this before the discussion in a week and 2 days, and hopefully finish it off before then. So now I'm going to show you the other 4 library books that I will be attempting to read this month. So I actually had these 2 books that I'm going to show you next as a goal at my Twitter TBR last year, which my Twitter TBR is different this year, and I'll talk about that later. But I had them in my Twitter TBR last year, and I've had them for about 6 months from the library because, again, there's no real due dates during COVID times, which I love, but then I feel guilty and have to return things. So I have been holding on to them because I kept telling myself I would actually read them in 2020. But then there was a different book I had out that had more people waiting for it, so I told myself to read that one first. And that book was Uncanny Valley by Anna Weiner. Or Weiner, I'm not sure which pronunciation that is. And so I finished that one off, and now I'm reading these 2. I finished it yesterday, and so now I want to read these 2 because they have some of a similar kind of Silicon Valley topic that they're covering. They're both nonfiction. One is a memoir and one is not. But these are very related to each other, so I want to read them in quick succession. So that is the plan. The first one I'm going to try to pick up, I think, is Whistleblower by Susan Fowler, My Journey to Silicon Valley and Fight for Justice at Uber. She is an Uber employee who wrote a blog post that went viral, I think maybe 4 years ago now, about the sexism that she personally experienced at Uber. And I have been following her on Twitter since then and have been very interested in reading more about her time at Uber and kind of sexism in tech. And I personally don't love Uber and have a lot of schadenfreude feelings towards it when there's bad press in the news. And so I, of course, wanted to pick this up, but I also wanted to pick up Super Pumped: The Battle for Uber by Mike Isaac. This is about sort of Uber, the rise of Uber, nonfiction book. And it is interesting because we don't really know where Uber's going to end up so far. It's still not quite profitable as far as I know. It has gone public now. It finally had an IPO. But this is a little bit older of a book, I believe. This came out in 2019. This came out in 2020. And I want to read both of these. So I'm hoping to get to these in January. That's why they're on my list, because they do need to get back to the library so the next people in line can read them. And then the last two library books I'm hoping to get to are graphic novels. So I felt like maybe I could jam like 2 in as the equivalent of another book. And I had meant to read these this year and just hadn't gotten to them. But the first of these is Bitter Root, which I heard, volume 1, which I heard about actually from my library. There was some kind of award thing that they had on their like page, and I was dinking around and I clicked on it, and this was one of the books that was on that list. And so I thought, oh, it looks interesting. It looks worth a try. And so we will see. I might actually end up DNFing this because I don't know a lot about what it's about. And like, I'm very weird about which comics I like and don't, but I'm at least going to give it a try. If you have read this or know more about what it's about, let me know down below your thoughts or feelings or whether or not you think I will like it. And then the other one I was really intending to read before the end of the year, but then I had emotions and feelings and didn't quite want it to be over. It is the final volume of The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl by Ryan North, and Derek Charm and Rico Renzi is the colorist. Derek Charm is a new artist. Eric Henderson was a previous artist. Anyway, it's slimmer than all the previous volumes. You can tell there's not as much in it. It's going to come to an end. And I just have a lot of feelings about this series, and I just couldn't be done in 2020. So I'm going to try to finish it in 2021 because I do want to get it back to the library so the next person in line can read it. But I also want space for my feelings. So that's the plan. So those are all the library books I'm going to attempt to get through. But actually my first priority beyond None Shall Sleep and The View from Somewhere, because one of them I'm literally reading right now, and the other I have to read by, a week and 2 days, the second Saturday in January. But all the other books I'm going to mention are books that I own or are currently having shipped to me because I bought them. And so this is part of my goal for the year, is to read more of the books off my shelves that I own. Actually, this year for my Twitter TBR, so the last couple years I've done like that little meme where you put up an image that says like, for everyone like, it'll be one book that I read in the next year. And this year I've done something totally different because I wanted to have books off my shelves, and my shelves have sort of started to look more stale to me. So I also wanted it to like be fresh eyes on it, and I wanted that participation still. So I will link this tweet down below. So if you haven't already picked a book for me, you can. But I literally took a picture of my 3 unread bookshelves, the 3 shelves in which I have unread books that are, some of which are wrapped and some of which are not, but all of the books pictured are unread, because I scribbled out the spines on the ones I've already read. And I asked people on Twitter to pick a book off my shelves for me to read. So please, if you haven't already done this, pick a book off my shelves to read. I'll link Twitter down below. I've only had a handful of people do it. I think maybe 8 so far, and usually I get closer to 40 people participating in my Twitter TBR challenge. So I'm going to try to read 2 books off of that list this month, and if I get more, because this video has made you aware that exists, that I will try to maybe squeeze 1 or 2 more in, or February maybe will just be all books off that list. The 2 that I've chosen are Stamped, which was recommended to me by Trina from Between Chapters, or picked off my shelf by Trina from Between Chapters. It was recommended to me. A friend of mine, Laura Willard, mentioned that this adaptation for young adults actually does a really great job taking the material and making it really accessible. And so I am going to read the young adult adaptation because even though I am a full adult, I just feel like this will be better for me. So thank you, Trina from Between Chapters, for recommending this, picking it right off my shelf for me to read this year. And then this is a book that was picked off my shelf by Julia Schrenkler, who's at Julia Schrenkler, who I have known for years on Twitter only. I just love interacting with her on Twitter. I love interacting with people on Twitter that are like my Twitter friends that I've never actually met in person. So I was delighted when she chose this book for me. I don't actually know what this is, but this paper is, I believe, like my fantasy retelling paper. Not fantasy, sorry. I believe that this is my historical retelling paper. I put up a key in, actually, my key is right here. I put up a key in the place where I was like, hey, choose these for me. So she knew what it was. Yes, it's my historical retelling paper. So the papers are coded. So this is a book that fell vaguely into either being historical or being retelling, and it does seem to be hardcover, and I have no idea what it is, because the only thing I remember specifically being this paper is not hardcover, and it's fatter than this. So let's see. Oh, it's upside down. Let's see what this book is. Oh, I think I've actually already read this one. Shout out to me. I think I read this one maybe last year. I knew that it was on my shelf somewhere, and I checked it out from the library and read it. So I am super excited. Or maybe I like had 2 copies of it and read the other one. Anyway, sorry, Julia. I think I've already read this book, but thank you for contributing to my reading and picking books off my shelves. I will double check, but just from remembering the title and skimming what it's about, I'm pretty sure I read that one. It is a historical. It's actually pretty interesting. It took me a little to get into it, but then like when I finished it, I was like, that was really interesting. I'm really glad I read it. There are 4 more books I'm going to read off my shelves, which are 1, 2, 3. Oh, I guess I chose an extra. So there are a couple things. One of my goals for this year is to read more books by non-white authors. And as part of that goal, I purchased a year's subscription from an independent bookstore in Michigan that does really good at shipping books out and everything. And I wanted to support because I've bought things from them before. And the specific theme of that year's subscription is books that are not written by white men. So some of the books they send me might be written by white women, but most of them should be written by non-white people. So I, at some point in January, will be getting the first book of that subscription. So I don't know what it is. It will just appear in my P.O. box, but that is part of that subscription, as I want to read the books within 30 days of receiving them. I don't want them to just become something on my shelf. The other thing I want to read that is still on its way here is Solutions and Other Problems by Ali Brosh. I had intended to get and read this in 2020, and I did eventually order it right at the end of December, but it just hasn't arrived yet. So I'm planning to read that in the first month of the year, and that is also sort of like a collection of illustrated stories. And so I'm not expecting that to take forever to read, which is why I thought it was safe to have a couple more books on my shelf. But obviously, this being one that I chose, but then I had already read it, also helped save me because so many books. But the other 2 I'm going to read are probably going to take me much longer to read. These coming right off my shelves. And that is Under the Banner of Heaven by Jon Krakauer. I've been meaning to read this for so long, and I need to just actually do it. I kind of have been delaying because it is about sort of violence against women in certain fundamentalist communities. And that's not a very light topic, but I also feel like I would like to read it and see Krakauer's take on it and see what he has to say. I think it's specifically focusing on some fundamentalist Mormon LDS, but FLDS, not the mainstream LDS churches. But I think that it will also kind of apply to other sort of fundamentalist communities. So we will see. I read 50 pages of this back when I first unwrapped it, but I think I'm going to have to start at the beginning again and just go straight through. And then the other book I want to read this month is a workbook. It actually was published by the CEO, CISO, and one of our marketing people at work. And I got a free copy from work, and I figure I should read this so I know more about our product and what we're saying. And it's less about our product, more about our viewpoint in the community. So I'm mentioning it here because I need to put it on a TBR so I actually pick it up. I've had it for a couple months now, but I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through because I also try not to mix too much work with leisure time. So we shall see how long this takes. But I have another book that I got from work that is more of a professional development-y thing that I should read at some point too. So that is the current plan for everything I would like to read. Let me get them all stacked up. So you can see them all on top of each other. Oh, I have a couple others that I hopefully before starting the video was thinking I can read those too, and then too many books. So here are all the books that I have mentioned this video as being on my TBR, plus Hyperbole and a Half, plus Solutions to the Other Problems, which has not come in yet, and plus whatever the mystery book is that I'm getting from my subscription this month. And then this one on top I have actually read, so I am very excited that will actually just get unhauled from my shelf. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later, hopefully with my goals video coming out, hopefully with my Lonesome Dove video coming out, and then at the end of the month I will check in and let you know how I did in reading all of these. Or you can just, spoil yourself and follow me on Goodreads. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.